So while the LA Kings didn't win the first overall pick in the draft lottery, they still come out as clear winners from the lottery, along with the placeholder team that will eventually get the first overall pick. But the LA Kings are now set for the future, and in this video, I'll explain why, and I'll also be taking a look at what options they have in this year's draft, and what they already have in their system, and spoiler alert, it's pretty good. And we're gonna jump straight into the 2020 draft that will be taking place at some point, we don't know when, but when it does happen, they have a bunch of options. I'm gonna assume Lafreniere goes first. If he doesn't, that's just crazy, but he will. So the Kings have the rest of the draft class to choose from, and man, are there ever some options. You can go with a big center in Quinton Byfield, you can go with a really skilled winger in Lucas Raymond, you can go with Tim Stützle or Marco Rossi, or a defenseman like Jamie Drysdale. You get the point, they have some pretty good players to choose from. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to go off what most draft rankings are saying, and I'm gonna say that the Kings draft Quinton Byfield. I know a lot of people in scouts have Tim Stützle or Marco Rossi as second on their rankings, but a majority are saying Byfield, and I'm inclined to agree. But I want to talk about Stützle because I think it's going to be either him or Byfield going second overall, and while I think Byfield will edge him, I still want to see how Stützle would fit into the Kings system. So Stützle is really interesting to me. On Bob McKenzie's ranking, he's second overall. Now that's not Bob's opinion, but rather the opinions of the scouts he surveyed. On consolidated rankings, Stützle is third overall, and some rankings even have him as far down as 8th overall. But to me, Stützle is a top 3, top 4 prospect in this draft. And what would he bring to the Kings? Let's have a quick look. As is the case with most top prospects nowadays, Stützle is a terrific skater. He's fast and intelligent with his speed, and he's great in the transition. He's also a really good playmaker, and he's more of a playmaker than a shooter, but his shot is also pretty good. What speaks for the Kings to pick Stützle over Byfield is that Stützle is more used to playing wing than Byfield, and the Kings already have a ton of centers in their system, and Byfield is a center, but on the flip side, having center depth is so incredibly helpful and necessary. Stützle can play center, but when comparing Stützle to Byfield, I would rather have Byfield as a center and Stützle as a winger. So what's the deal with Byfield? Why do most people have him going second overall? Well, first off, he's huge. He's 6'4", 217 pounds as a 17-year-old. Yeah, he's got quite the frame. It's also pretty important to note that he's almost a year younger than Lafreniere. Byfield's birthday is in August, so he's one of the youngest, if not the youngest in this year's draft class, but he's one of the best. Byfield is a terrific skater. The skating combined with his size is just scary, but it doesn't stop there. He's supremely skilled as well, he can control the puck at high speed, and just like Stützle, he's great when it comes to the transition game. It's pretty rare that you get a player of this size who is so skilled and smooth on the skates, but you have it here with Byfield, and I know this might sound crazy, but I would compare him to Malkin in terms of how they play the game. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Malkin, but he reminds me of him. Okay, so with all that said, I think the Kings are going with Quinton Byfield. And now it's time to take a look at their current team, which isn't that exciting, and their prospect pool, which is very exciting. So looking at the Kings today, they aren't that good as we all know, and they're not really a team that I enjoy watching. They still have the core players from their cup winning days, which is good. Players like Kopitar and Doughty can be mentors for these new young players coming in, and I mean, Kopitar, a big center, mentoring Byfield, a big center, could be really helpful. Other than that, there's not really much to be said. Brown and Jeff Carter are 35 and they still have 2 years left on their deals. I wouldn't resign them when the time comes. I'd actually try and trade them next season or the season after that as rentals to a contending team, because their cap hits are high and the Kings might be a team that can attract good free agents in a year or two. And if you want to do that, you need to have cap space. On the defensive end, they have Drew Doughty with his insane contract. That's going to be a problem in due time, but for now, he's still pretty good, but that $11 million cap hit is just, yeah. Goaltending wise, Quick has a contract until 2023, by then he'll be 37, and there should be a replacement in place like Cal Peterson, or maybe they draft or sign someone else, but Peterson looks like he's going to be pretty good. But if the Kings' current squad is one of the least exciting in the NHL, their prospect pool is the complete opposite. It is the most exciting and the best prospect pool in the league, and after this draft, it won't have changed a bit. Not only do they have the second overall pick, they have 9 more picks after that, 3 of them being in the second round. That's 4 picks in the 2 first rounds of the draft. That's incredible. This is what makes your franchise and where you get the cornerstones of your team. And of course, all the players that they draft won't become superstars or even top 6 guys, but then you can either trade them or have them as depth guys. I look at a player like Tyler Toffoli. He was drafted in the second round in 2010, took a few years to develop, and then he got the assist on a cup-winning goal in 2014. He kept putting in good seasons, and now when the rebuild is underway, he's flipped for a prospect in Tyler Madden, who looks pretty good, and a second-round pick in this year's draft. That's 2 prospects from a player who won't be the same when the rebuild is over. It's just great business. So I mentioned Tyler Madden as one of the Kings' many prospects. He's a center who put in a really solid season in the NCAA. 37 points in 27 games is no joke. Unfortunately, he was injured and couldn't play the full season, but he had one of the best point per games in the entire NCAA, and I would say he starts off next season in the AHL, but will eventually get a call up to the NHL during the season. But Tyler Madden isn't the best Kings prospect, he's not even their best center prospect. I would give both those titles to Alex Turcotte, who was drafted at 5th overall in last year's draft. This guy is seriously good. 27 points in 29 games in NCAA as a rookie is pretty good, and he was signed by the Kings in March, so we'll see what the plan is for him, if he's going to the AHL first or if they think he's ready for the NHL. I would put him in the AHL first, but I'm pretty sure the LA Kings have a pretty good plan for him planned out. Once he reaches his prime, he probably won't score the most points or be the most dynamic offensive player in the league, but he's a good skater, he's very skilled, and is good on both ends of the ice, and that's what I love. And having him and Byfield as your 1-2 punch at center would be incredible. I always go on about how important having a 1-2 punch at center is, and it's what wins you championships, and this is championship caliber if they develop the way they should. We've talked centers, but the Kings have some really good options on the wings as well, and I'm talking about Arthur Kaliyev and Samuel Fagemo. Kaliyev is a really interesting player. He's a good goal scorer, a very good goal scorer, but there are issues with his game, like his play without the puck. But when you have a player like Kaliyev and the prospect of him being a really good goal scorer in the NHL, you have to take that chance. Samuel Fagemo is someone who I've talked about on the channel before. I think he's great. I think he could be a top 6 scoring winger. You can put him on the power play and feed him one-timers. And on 5-on-5, he's probably not going to drive your line, but if he plays with Byfield or Turcotte or Gabe Vilardi, who I haven't even talked about yet, but if he plays with them, you don't really expect him to drive the line either. So yeah, I think he's going to be a solid top 6 goal scoring winger. But guys, I think you get the point. I don't want to bore you by talking about every single exciting prospect the Kings have, because they have a lot and it's going to be a very long video, but I just need to say this. They have Rasmus Kupari, they have Gabe Vilardi, they have Akil Thomas, and that's just at center. They have Tobias Bjornfot, a really good defensive prospect, and also a shout out to Jacob Moverare as well. I watched him in the SHL this year and I think he did pretty well. I don't think he's going to be a top 4 defenseman, but he might be someone worth keeping your eye on. So all in all, the future for the Kings is extremely bright. While the current team isn't that good and the cap situation isn't the best, I think by the time most of these prospects are ready, most of the cap problems will be solved. Like I mentioned, Carter and Brown will probably be gone or on significantly cheaper deals. They still have to pay Kovalchuk until next year, so that won't be a problem. And the only real bad contract will be that of Drew Doughty. While he is good now, he's not going to be an $11 million player in 4 or 5 years. And you can argue he's not an $11 million player right now, but that's a different discussion. And when I look at it, this rebuild has been pretty quiet from the Kings. They've been patient and can soon reap the rewards. I've never really seen the Kings as this young, fast, exciting team because they haven't been that, and they won cups playing their own style, but now they're becoming this young and exciting team, and it's really fun to see. There'll be growing pains on the road, of course, and some of their prospects probably won't pan out as planned, but with the amount of top prospects they have, the forecast is really good. So what do you guys think? Do you agree that the Kings have the best prospect pool in the league? And what player are you most excited about? Tell me in the comments below, and I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.